8 p.m. By 1. Ambivalence, Ben Greenman. When a girl is skinny and calls you late at night, and you glance at the calendar, and it is 4 days before you are scheduled to get married, and the girl you are marrying is not the skinny girl but another girl, a girl who has already departed for the city where your wedding is to be held, it is your job, most probably, to hang up the phone. When you do not hang up the phone, you have not done your job. When you invite that skinny girl to your apartment, and then you jump into the shower so that you will be clean, taking special trouble to wash the parts that matter, and then you mess up your hair so that you will look as though you haven't gone to any special trouble, then you are doing another job entirely. She was a painter. Panos met her through a mutual friend. She had a boyfriend, who was 22 years older than she, and when Panos first spoke to her, he said that he thought that the age difference was an atrocity. Like bombing Cambodia, he said, convinced that this was a joke that she would not understand. She surprised him with a knowing laugh. They talked about his impending marriage, and about the week of freedom he had but doubted its use. She took out a paper-mate blue pen and used it to write his phone number on her hand. She wrote it strangely, not with numerals but with letters O for 1, T for 2, TH for 3, F, Phi, and so on. So that makes your number F-Stuth, she said. 40_stories_final. In June 18, 5:38 p.m. Ben Greenman 2. Hey, Panos said. That's my street, F-Stuth Avenue. For that joke I award you this pen, she said, handing it over ceremonially. I'll get it later. When she arrived at Panos's apartment, F-Stuth was still inked on her hand, but that was not the first thing he noticed. The first thing he noticed was that she was carrying a suitcase. It was small enough that she held it rather than setting it down, but large enough that it seemed to have winded her slightly on the way up to the 3rd floor. Are you moving in? He said. I don't know how my wife will feel about this. She set the suitcase down on the floor, unzipped it, and flipped back the top. There were white packages there, white sheets, and when she unwrapped them they were her paintings. She spread them out on the floor of his apartment. There were 10 of them, each one a small landscape with a single bird flying over a marsh and a single human figure in the foreground. They were slightly different shades, one reddish, one greenish, one dunnish, and so on, across a muted spectrum. Panos looked at the paintings and asked polite questions about them that she answered smoothly. I like to tell people that he's trying to capture the bird, she said. I always feel hilarious saying that. But the bird's not an unwitting victim. He sees the man. You can be sure about that. When he asked if they were all pictures of the same scene, she said that she saw how he'd think so but that no, 3 of them were painted from actual photographs of her father hunting and the other 7 were created from imagination. My father left when I was a little girl, she said. I remember that he yelled a lot, and that he was mean to my mother, and that she was happier without him. But recently I have been looking for pictures of him. I found 3 and made up 7 more. No one should have fewer than 10 photographs of her father. They turned the TV on but turned the volume all the way down. They ordered pizza. She sat in a chair across the room from him and announced that she hadn't showered that morning because the water in her apartment was too cold. Panos told her she was welcome to take a shower if she wanted. We'll see, she said, and went around. 40_stories_final. In June 18, 5:38 p.m. Ambivalence 3. The apartment, ticking her finger across the spine of books. Lots of history books, she said. Not mine, Panos said. Oh, she said. Too bad. I love history books. She was wearing tight stretch pants and a tight white shirt. It was obvious to Panos that she was the skinniest girl who had ever been in his apartment. She was not wearing a bra, which put her in the company of at least 2 other girls who had been in the apartment, neither of whom was the girl who was, in 4 days' time, going to be his wife. His wife always wore a bra, and even 3 years into the relationship, she gave a little involuntary gasp of pleasure whenever he unclasped it. He figured that it was, at best, a reflex. The history books were hers. The skinny girl came and stood right next to Panos. She planted her feet to make it clear that she was ready to address the issue. Well, Panos said. Here we are. We are here, she said. No doubt about that. It's all in the way you say it, he said. Here we are is more loaded than we are here. Is that what we are? Loaded, she said. Speaking of which, I'll have more wine. She shook her glass and sloshed out a few drops onto her shirt. Shit, she said. I have extra t-shirts, Panos said. I'll just take this off, she said, and did. Come here, Panos said. She sat on the couch and pushed up alongside him. They watched the TV, which was showing a strongman competition. A fat Swede was jogging down a short track, the chassis of a car held on his shoulders. I really stink, she said. Panos closed his eyes for research. She was right, in a way, it was the smell of young sweat, of a black flower blooming. She unbuttoned his shirt and laid her head on his chest. Now you've got me thinking about my father, she said. I do, Panos said. How? It's not that hard to do. I don't think I like your tone, he said. I'm sure you don't, she said. No one ever does. She squeezed his arm. You know what my father did? Other than leave, I mean. 40_stories_final. In 3 June 18th 12:5:38 p.m. Ben Greenman 4. And Hunt. No, I mean what he did for work. He was trained as a lawyer, but about a year before I was born he quit to work on a biography of his great-grandfather, who was a British intelligence agent who specialized in code breaking. Do you know about the Zimmerman telegram? Panos shook his head. She didn't continue right away. He put his hand on her stomach and then slipped a few fingers just inside the elastic band of her pants. Tell me, Panos said. What? She said after a while. Tell me about the telegram. Oh, she said. Why? Are you really interested? Panos nodded and let one finger drift a little lower. Of course you are, she said. Really, Panos said. Keep telling me about it. Fine, she said. This telegram was sent from the German Foreign Secretary to the German ambassador in Mexico, and it announced that the Germans were going to support a Mexican attack on the southwestern United States. The British, including my great-great-grandfather, cracked the code. When the telegram was verified, Wilson armed ships to defend against Germany, and a few days after that, we were at war. World War I. You know, even though the history books aren't mine, I managed to figure that out. The code was a cryptogram. We cracked it partly because one of the top German spies, Wilhelm Wasmus, had lost his codebook in Iran the year before. We picked it up and it helped with the Zimmerman telegram. We. Now she didn't like his tone. We the British. We my great-great-grandfather. The strongman competition had ended, and now the TV was showing dirt bike racing. She got up to go to the bathroom, and when she came back she started to pack her paintings back into the suitcase. What color would you say this is? She said, holding up a canvas. Blue. And what about this one? 40_stories_final. In 4 June 18th 12:5:38 p.m. Ambivalence 5. Also blue. Right. But isn't that ridiculous? Two colors that are so different, but they're considered the same. It's almost reason enough to become a painter, just to try to understand that. Colors are like a code too. Oh, yeah, Panos said. Finish the code story. It was finished, she said. Finished enough. I was out of that and on to color. Blame your bathroom. It's blue. I didn't pick that color. It doesn't look like your thing, she said. When are you getting married? Sunday, Panos said. It's strange. It seems like a million years away, and also like it's going to happen the first time I let myself breathe. You're not breathing. Not always well. Is it because I stink? It's because I'm not sure what message you'll be sending if I do. Maybe my true feelings will come through. What are those true feelings? I assume they have something to do with the reason I'm here. She had her chin tilted up now, and her words were falling into the space between them. Ambivalence. That's not a feeling. It's the presence of two feelings at once. What are the two? Joy and fear. Happiness and hatred. Rightness and wrongness. Wrongness. The most obvious kind of wrongness. Like maybe this isn't the right choice. Like there are a million people to love, and how can I settle on one and be sure that I'm not a fool? I have met others. I might meet others. What about Eskimos? The Eskimos, she said. Of course. Or the Finns or the Malays or all the other people I don't even know about. Maybe I could be with one of them without ambivalence. Don't you have these questions about your boyfriend? He's a quick story. He's older, is big like you, has a beard, helps pay the rent on my painting studio, treats me with what we'll say is 40 underscore stories underscore final dot in 5 June 18th 12:5:38 p.m.